Hey, thanks for tuning in. My name is Eric Showery. I'm the CEO and director of Cascade Limousine Service, located in Calgary, Alberta, and that's Western Canada. In this video, I'm going to show you how I do payroll reports using Limo Anywhere. Quick brief about me. Originally, I wasn't in the limo industry. I used to work as a mining engineer in the oil sands, making a really good salary, and I wanted more adventure out of life, I guess. Wanted more risk, wanted more reward. So I decided to get into business. I had dabbled in business a bit. So I had enough confidence to believe I could venture out on my own. So I was looking for a business to buy. I wasn't looking for a limo business, but it had good numbers. So I was very interested. And the more I started looking into it, the more I fell in love with the industry. That was July 2023 when I quit my job and bought the limo business. And it's now February 2025. So that's at least a year and a half, I'd say, that I've been in business. From day one, from day one, I started with Limo Anywhere, so I've been using it for a year and a half now. And you know what? I am not looking for any other software. It does everything I need. And so right now in my business, I only use two main software to manage the limo business itself. And that's Limo Anywhere for the reservations and the dispatching and the payroll, and I use Limo Manager, which is a CRM tool slash marketing tool that I use. And today I'm going to talk about Limo Anywhere, and I'll show you how I do payroll reports. It's end of month, so about this time, everyone wants to get paid. We do our payroll bi-weekly, so that's every 2 weeks. For this last period, we're talking about January 16 to 31. So when I log into Limo Anywhere, this is what it looks like. Okay. There's different options there. I'm gonna go to payables, and right now I'm gonna do this is me, Shauri Eric. So pretty much how it works, all these trips here for all these are my chauffeurs. There's for all these guys, what I do is all the trips are already settled. So the trips are already settled. These trips are unsettled, but as you can see, for Eric, I've settled everything until January 31st. So up until January 31st, it's all settled. So you got to settle the trips first before it comes into this view paid drivers. So these are the trips that I've completed between January 16 and 31. You can see them. So I'm just going to select that and say pay selected. So what this does is it opens another window, and pretty much it's created the driver payroll report. For this section, what I do is I just put in the pay period, 16 to 31. Driver name is there already. Report name, I just have a standard. I just standardize how I name them for everyone. So this is John 16 to 31. So when we go to the driver payroll logs, then you'll see how having a standard just makes your life easier. Okay. So these are all the trips that Eric, which is me, I did. So not only am I the CEO, but I also dabble as a chauffeur, depending on demand. One rule about me is the goal is to do the most with the least resources, to get the most output from the least input. So I don't like to hire drivers. My drivers are contractors, they're not even employees. So that has benefits to me and to them as well. So, my drivers only get paid when there's work. Okay, my drivers get paid when there's work. When there's no work, they don't get paid. We don't have any fixed costs for chauffeurs, except the WCB. We still pay WCB whether they work or not. Anyway, so for Eric, here we go. One thing I like to do here, and really, I'll show you two examples. What we have here, like this first trip, because I know how this works, I can go through it quickly and I know where the issues are. Like for this trip here, the hourly says zero, it shouldn't. This other one, it says zero, it shouldn't. So what that tells me is when I was settling the trip, I didn't update the driver payroll information. So when I click on that trip, it opens a window here, settle trip. This is the trip, just a summary of the trip in the settlement window. So, this is what the customer paid and all that. So for the driver, what is best to do is to do this right as you're settling the trips. because it saves you time during payroll. It used to take me up to like 6 hours in a day. Like I used to have to dedicate a full day to do payroll. So every second to last day of the month and second to last day of the period, I'd have to just sit at home, cancel everything, just make sure I'm at home to do payroll. It was painful. So a few hacks here and there have saved me the time, and this is really one important one. Trust me. Just do the driver payroll when you're settling the trip. So I look here, this was a 1.5 hour trip, right? It's 1.5 times the base rate. This is for one of our limos, the Ford Expedition limo. So the price is 175 for this client times 1.5. They added a 20% tip. There's a GST, which is the goods and services tax for the government. It's already added there. Okay, so the driver gets an hour and a half because the trip was an hour and a half. And he also gets 100% of the 52.5. That's the gratuity. That's the gratuity here. So 20% here, and it's 20% of the base rate, right? So the chauffeur gets 100%. That's how that works. So total for this chauffeur, for Eric, he gets $90 for 1.5 hours of work. Technically, it's maybe 1.75 because of drive time to the garage. But for, let's say, for 1.5 hours of work, you get $90. And if you do 5 of those a day, you're getting $400 a day. Just pretty good money for part-time money. So that was that trip. This is the second one. So I know this trip, this was just a 1 hour trip, 15% tip. So the tip is 100%, $21. And then here it's 1 hour update. This was a premium SUV. So this was our Lincoln Navigator Reserve. Okay, so one thing I didn't do was I did not save it. So I have to do this again. John 16 to 31. Okay, there we go. Save it. So you save it. Okay, be sure to save it. That's literally it, because all this was already done before when I was settling these trips. This all the hourly is already there. You can see all the tips are here. There's a tip there. Here, there's no tip because it was a cash tip. Here, there's no tip because it was a cash tip. There's the hourly, and then there's the base. Then there's the, depending on how you structure it, and maybe that can be a video for later, but depending on how you set up your account and how you work your rate system, depending on your state, your province, your country, all these are different. But for me, the reason I don't have the gratuity, I don't have gratuity in this column, because in this column, this gratuity does not include GST. Our gratuity, if it's paid here, has to include GST. So if it's like an extra gratuity, which is no, we don't put GST on that, it may come here. So here, depending on how you set up your account, for me, I just have hourly. I have this column, and I know these are my tips, the way I need to pretty much calculate tips. And the other thing for chauffeurs, like in our company, the only other thing we do is to 4.60. The only other thing we do is we remit employment insurance to the government. So for example, for this period, January 6th, 31, we had 424.60. So what I have here is just a spreadsheet I've created that calculates tax owing payroll remittances. Automatically, I have a table which tabulates everything because we have to do monthly remittances. So I have a spreadsheet to calculate it. I just punch in the number and it does it. 417.55. So here, then I take this 7.05. This is the EI that's calculated based on the earning. 7.05. I come here and I say EI premium current, deduct 7.05. And because you don't want to mess with people's money, you got to double check 7.05, 7.05. Correct. Now, in these other rows, sometimes I add things like if a chauffeur goes out of pocket, buys like a lubricant, like an oil, or buys windshield washer fluid, or even our company has we have a fleet card with Esso, so we only gas up at Esso unless due to circumstances you can't gas up at Esso. You gas up somewhere else. My chauffeurs go out of pocket, I reimburse them. So I come here and I put how much, if there was something else, like, if they did a car wash is a company expense, come here and put 5.99 and I'd say plus. So the EI is on gross, and then net after that tax, that's where I compensate for out-of-pocket expenses. Okay. In this case, for Eric, there was no out-of-pocket expenses, so we'll just leave it as that. So yeah, total comes to 417.55. And I gotta make sure, for me, I gotta make sure that matches this. This is the check that they should get. 417.55, it matches, it matches. If these two spreadsheets match, then I'm golden. Okay. So that's saved. At this point, what I'll do is I'll go into our QuickBooks, or I'll go into just my bank account and send an Interact e-transfer. For me, it's easier to send Interact e-transfer than it is to do bank deposits, because our pay is not fixed and it's just quicker. I can do this report and pay someone in 10 minutes, right? Instead of them waiting till a certain period for a bank transfer to go through. So when you go to driver payroll logs, this is the last one I did. You can see there, gross 424.6, 17.55, and yeah, and it also shows the pay period. So I know this is Jan 16 to 31. All these other pay periods, you can search by pay period, or you can search by driver name. If I search there, Eric, it just pulls up all the Eric reports, right? And so that's how I do payroll reports with Limo Anywhere. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment. I'm happy to help. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and hope to catch you on the next video. Take care.